Hey everyone, welcome in to tonight's live. How's everybody doing? Hopefully you guys are having a great week, start to your week. It is Monday, the 5th of February, one and only, the one and only. So welcome in. If you guys are new to the channel, we do talk true crime daily here. My name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt, and welcome in. If you're a returning Titan, welcome back for yet another upload. Appreciate that. If you're watching on a replay, just hashtag replay or hashtag, hey, I'm watching. Hashtag whatever you like down there, but just hashtag something. That way I know you're here, either on a live or on, replay. So we did hit 14,000 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to the channel. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. So I do appreciate each and every one of you guys subscribing. I'm telling you what, over here on YouTube, it takes a lot for people to subscribe to your channel compared to other platforms. So I'm glad I got 14,000 of you to hit that button. If you haven't yet, don't forget to hit the button. Hit that subscribe, hit the like, hit all the buttons. Hit them all tonight. So welcome in, everybody. I see there's some people in the chat tonight. It's nice. So hey, Cheryl. Cheryl made it in first. There she is. And I saw Lee was a new one. We had a new person in. Hey, Jan. Hey, Ladybug. And Teresa, she isn't feeling good. Hope you start to feel better. Hey, Mike. We'll get into tonight's case. Hey, Wild Rose. Our whips in here. We've got the whole crew. Crafty One, Ava Mose, aka Oprah. Hey, Lisa. Hey, T's House. Hey, Misty. Hey, welcome in. KK, everyone's in here. Justice Jane. We got them all. ALR Boone. We got so many people. It's so nice to see everybody. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, subscribe. That way you can chat in our chat. If you decide you don't like us, then you can unsubscribe and you don't have to hang out with us anymore. But I'm telling you, we have a really cool chat here. So we will get into tonight's live. We're going to talk about the Kansas City 3 again. I wasn't planning on talking about this case tonight. And then, of course, Nancy Grace podcast came out and I listened to it and I was like, this is a good podcast. So as soon as I was getting ready to come over for the live, she dropped the video version of that. So it's even better now for everybody because, it's better to see her in person, not just to hear her. But I'll give it just a second or two to start. I'm going to drop my link into the chat for my second channel. If you guys want to subscribe over there, it's going to be more laid back, chill, fun channel. And I think we're going to do lives maybe during the day or midday or, something like that. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Also, if you have any questions throughout the live, just throw them in the chat and we'll answer them for you. So I did find this article that I wanted to show you guys today before we watched the Nancy Grace video. And I actually have a question for you guys. So I was thinking about this earlier as I was getting ready for tonight's live. And I'm not sure why I didn't think about this sooner. But how were their levels so high in the 3 men that were found, frozen to death? Their rug levels, how are they so high 2 days after they ingested them? I was just wondering, I've been looking it up and that's a rabbit hole of its own. I need to call a doctor, but I was trying to look it up to see, if it stays into your system and how all that works. And it's a rabbit hole. Like I said, they say that some medications will, go out, some stay in, some don't metabolize, some do metabolize, some form together. And then it's hard to read what they are because the rugs have, kind of woven together. And I guess you could say. So if anyone knows the question of that, just let me know. I haven't seen the video, but I did hear about that, Justice Jane. I don't know him very well, like Jelly Roll. I don't know him. I know his wife. Is that weird? I know of his wife more than him. Maybe the frozen bodies preserved. That's what I was thinking too. Maybe because they were out there. But I remember reading up about this when it comes to alcohol back when the Kylo Rodney case was going on. But I haven't read about it when it comes to like different drugs. They do say something about, I was reading some stuff in here. I don't know if this is the article or not, but they were saying that if you do the Coke, it will do, I don't know if it stays. I think that's the one metabolizes out. But I'll double check for you guys. Because I know that there was one that metabolizes out. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that's one of the ones that were in their system. So, hey, Kay. Hey, Taxi, welcome in. Yeah, and I think he had on something last night for that at the Grammys. He had on like a jacket, I think, that was talking about that, which I think that's amazing. I mean, it really is. It's amazing that somebody with his reach is talking about it, And then I'll just read the chat. Oh. I haven't checked my email. I need to check my email. I have not checked my email today. I'll have to check because I want to see the puppies. Remind me before the end of the live, because I was going to check it last night and then I was like, no, check it tomorrow. Just check all your emails. And then I totally forgot, which I probably don't have that many, but I know I have one from you. So we'll read through this and then we'll play the Nancy Grace podcast and then I'll pull my email up. So this article here, I wanted to read this one to you guys because this one here goes over April Mahoney, and that is Clayton McGeeney's fiance. And she describes how she found them. And when I've read this a couple of different times, and I'm going to read it again with you guys because the one that I was reading earlier made it seem like she almost found them, like all three of them, but then other articles make it sound like she only found David, David Harrington, who was sitting upright in the chair. So let me know what you guys think, because I hope she didn't find her fiance. That'd be terrible. That'd be beyond. So April Mahoney was so desperate to find her missing fiance, Clayton McGeeney, that she took matters into her own hands a little after 9 p.m. on January 9th. She pounded fruitlessly for 10 minutes on the door of Kansas City, Missouri, rental belonging to Jordan Willis, where McGeeney and his friends were last seen 2 days earlier. Then she broke in through a basement window, yelling to see if there was anyone in the house, a relative told the Post. And she's actually, I didn't even think about this. If it was like carbon monoxide and she was going in there, that's actually pretty brave of her to go in there, not knowing what was, inside. Next, she walked upstairs, looked out the large back windows, and saw a grisly tableau of the snow-covered patio. Mahoney first spotted the frozen body of one man, David Harrington, seated upright in a lawn chair. She was so upset that she did not immediately see that her fiancé was also unalived on the ground beside a third man, Ricky Johnson, who was also unalived. Now, it says not, she did not immediately see. So does that mean that she ended up seeing? Like she did end up seeing? Oh, thanks, Jan, for gifting a membership. Thank you. Look at that. KB got it. Welcome on in. Yeah, I hope she didn't find Clayton. Because it was dark. Okay, I hope so. I mean, I wish she wouldn't have found any of them, but finding your fiance is a whole different ballpark. I mean, that's a whole different kind of therapy, I mean, she's already going to have to be in it, I'm sure, for a very long time. That was her fiance you send your fiance to a game, you're like, hey, go have fun with your buddies. And then he never comes home. And then you go there to find his friend sitting upright in a chair, frozen. Like, it's not like he's laying down on the ground. Like, that's different. I don't know. It had to have been so eerie and so scary to see that. I would have ran the other way too. It says that she didn't see him, immediately, but April saw David and then she totally panicked and almost couldn't breathe, and she called the police. Clayton's uncle, Jim McGeeney, told the Post. The cops showed up within minutes and Jordan opens the door, no problem, wearing his boxers and holding an empty wine glass. I still don't know why he just didn't sit the wine glass down. And there's a picture of her and him. Oh, she's tiny. Oh, that's probably why she was able to go through that basement window. She's tiny. She was like, I'm getting in there. Hey, Chicken Noodle Girl, welcome in. It says, since then, the mystery of how McGeeney, 36, Harrington, 37, and Johnson, 38, died seamlessly simultaneously in the snowy backyard while Willis, their host, a 38-year-old HIV research scientist, said he had been sleeping for 48 hours and had no idea his buddies had expired in full view of the house, has only deepened. The temperature in the backyard in the early morning hours of January 8th when the men died was just about freezing. Wow. Preliminary toxicology results Thursday indicated the men died from effects of coke and fatty. And it says here, like, the temperatures in the backyard in the early morning hours of January 8th were just about freezing. So maybe that's why Ricky walked outside with no coat on, because Ricky's dad said that he walked outside, or he was outside with no coat. There, I'll make me a little bit bigger. I'm wondering if that's why he did, if he walked outside without no coat, not because he was hot because of the effects, but because he is a big guy. It wasn't that cold out. I mean, I know when it's 40 degrees here, people are out in shorts and flip-flops during the day. I was wearing my Birks today, 50 degrees, walking the dogs. When we can. We, you know what I mean? Like, I hate being bundled up. So maybe that's why his jacket was found inside. Because I don't know about Clayton or David's items. I don't think their family members have come out to say if their items, where they were located. But I know that Ricky's dad came out and said that his items were found inside. Like his jacket anyway. I can't remember if they said cell phone also, but I know his jacket was. So the toxicology reports were not publicly released by Kansas City police, but some bereaved relatives were briefed on their contents, a family member told the Post. 2 family members told News Nation that the bodies contained 3 times the amount of fetty needed to kill someone. That's a man. After 2 days. So, I mean, I would say some of the rugs would come out of your system. I don't know. Let me know if you guys know. Ooh. But friends and family of the unalived men say many questions are still unanswered, especially about Willis. More than one person said it sounded like the Breaking Bad TV series come to life. And it does. Some people are saying that. Willis has a PhD from Vanderbilt University as an HIV vaccine researcher. He worked both at the International AIDS Vaccine Initiative's Neutralizing Antibodies Center in Loyola, California, and from his native Kansas City. So maybe that's where he was before. Someone was asking what city he lived in before. I'm assuming this one, Loyola, or I don't know how you say that, but California. I forget who it was. It might have been Doodlebug. Hey, Ashley. His academic resume includes 55 published papers, 5 times the academic output of ex-Harvard president Claudine Gay, and an award from the Scripps Consortium for HIV/AIDS for his contribution to the development of the HIV vaccine. Wow. He is smart. Like, he's not like just like, I mean, like scientist smart. Like, he's like super genius science smart. Like, what? That's craziness smart. I mean, for his age. But his dead friends, they all met at Park Hill High School a mile away, had more blue-collar jobs. McGeeney worked construction and Harrington was a flooring contractor. And we know that Ricky Johnson worked construction with his dad. They own like a construction company together. So some friends and family members have commented to each other in the media that Willis might have cooked up something extra in the rugs the men took that night. A source close to the family disputed that, speaking to Fox News Digital. Willis was arrested and charged with a misdemeanor DUI in 2011 in Tennessee, according to public records, hardly the mark of a Midwestern Walter White, and has no further criminal record. The mad scientist agenda is absolutely ridiculous, the source said. The fact that he is a scientist is irrelevant, but not everyone is convinced. Yeah, I mean, truly, like, there's people that are not convinced of that. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for the $5 super sticker. That's so sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much. I want to see the little thing. I have the cup here now. Oh, that's cute. to see the little emoji. Thank you so much. Welcome in, everybody. Someone has to know who bought it. Yeah, that's just, it's not the fact that the three men, died of, what they did. It's everything around it, it's just everything around it. And I just want to know every detail. It says a bunch of people reached out to Clayton's sister and told her that Willis had been known as the chemist in high school. Jim McGeeney told the Post. They said he would go to parties and make people feel good with the drugs he enhanced. I don't know if he concocted something or not that night. The police won't tell us anything. So, see, I'm wondering if those are really people that he went to school with, or if that's the cousin, that had come out. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder if these are like multiple people, or if it's just the cousin that said that, because we did hear him in an interview say that. April, he said, is all tore up. She barely wants to talk. The funeral for Clayton was very tough, and they were together for years and had a great life. I cannot even imagine that. I wouldn't want to talk either, girlfriend. Oh, my Lord. Willis, the three dead men and the fifth friend gathered at the 4-bedroom rental in the suburban northern sprawl of 20 minutes north of downtown Kansas City, sometime after the Chiefs defeated the Los Angeles Chargers at SoFi Stadium 13-12 in the early evening of January 7th. The fifth man, Alex Lee Weimer, arrived at the home around 7 p.m. and told police when he left at 12:01 a.m., all the men were up and watching a rerun of Jeopardy. Now, to me, that's when the drugs were in their system, was during Jeopardy. Who watches Jeopardy at midnight? Really? When you're in your 30s. Maybe you do. I don't know. Y'all are going to be like, I do. And you're going to be good at Jeopardy. I'm not good at Jeopardy. Willis, whose stories have changed slightly when recounted by his lawyer, John Persuno, claims he went to sleep around 12:30 a.m. when his friends were still there. At one point, it was claimed he saw them leave. Persona did not respond to repeated requests for comments from the Post, because now he knows to keep his damn mouth shut, but he should have did that in the beginning. Now, I think that if Jordan wouldn't have had this attorney, even if he wouldn't have said anything, if he wouldn't have had this attorney, I don't think that we'd be looking that hard into it. Like, I think that stupid attorney did him more harm than good. They didn't talk. There was a lack of communication. They did talk and they couldn't get their story straight. I don't know, but something. Early on the morning of January 9th, both Mahoney and Johnson's mom, Norma Chester, text Weimer Lee asking where the men were. Weimer Lee then texts Willis both on his phone and via Facebook, but he apparently never answered. I would like to see those messages that he sent. You know what I mean? Like, that would prove that he sent messages, to Jordan saying like, hey, where are the guys at? Their family's looking for him. Because even if he can't show him Jordan, the other guy can show him on his end. That night at about 7 p.m., a close friend of the men, Dakota Latier, pounded on Willis's door for about 20 minutes with no response. Then Mahoney came by 2 hours later, saw two vehicles belonging to the deceased out front, and knocked on the door herself before breaking in the tiny basement window, getting access to the backyard, and making her deadly discovery. So she must have went in through the front some way, like through the basement, and then that's how she popped out the back. I don't know. She called the police, who arrived 10 minutes later. 10 minutes is a long time. What? I'd have been like freaking out if I was her at that point. So how did he not hear her not only break in? Okay, let's say that she didn't break in. Let's say she didn't break in. She found a dead body on the back porch. She's going to be screaming from high heaven. She's going to be freaking out. How do you not know someone's freaking out outside of your home? Not only, pounding on the door, freaking out, breaking in, but when the cops get there, then he's like, oh yeah, now it's time to wake up. Now it's time to get up with my wine glass. Like, why do you have the wine glass, buddy? I have questions. I just would like to ask him. Please come on. Really. It says, this time Willis answered the door right away. He was handcuffed briefly, but released without charge. Cobb said there was no evidence of foul play. Now, see, if he was handcuffed briefly but released without charge, okay, so if he wasn't taken down to the station, then he wasn't given, then they wouldn't have gotten his blood in order to take it to see if there was anything in his system. And within, how long does that kind of stuff stay in your system? I would say not very long. Wow. I'm wondering if that's what it was. If she went into like instead of like a basement, if it was more of like a crawl space kind of thing. I don't know. Michael Baden, the former chief medical examiner for New York City, who has investigated numerous high-profile deaths, told the Post that it would be unlikely for 3 people taking drugs to die at the same time, but it wouldn't be unusual for 3 people to pass out at the same time. Okay, that's what I kept saying. Like, how could they like just drop, dead at the same time, being different sizes? But that makes more sense, passing out. They usually pass out and sleep it off. But if you pass out in the snow and cold, the body temperature falls so quickly that often people are dead within an hour. On January 20th, Willis's defense attorney, John Percerno, sent out a press release saying Willis was unaware that his friends had died and that he had been asleep with earbuds and a fan. Percerno did not answer more than a dozen calls from the Post. Willis has checked into rehab, according to a report. Willis is facing his addiction head on, a source close to the family told Fox News Digital, calling the deaths of his friends an enormous wake-up call. 3 deaths, I guess that would be a wake-up call, wouldn't it? Walter White. After the shocking loss of 3 of his close friends, under extremely tragic circumstances, Jordan recognized that he had a problem with addiction, the source said, often or without elaborating on the exact nature. He immediately checked himself into rehab after vacating his home and putting his things into storage. Jeff McGeeney said that Willis moved out of the rental, which is reportedly owned by his parents, the day after the bodies were found. His beloved rescue pits, Daisy and Sadie, may have been with his parents all the time. So his parents apparently own the house. So nobody came and kicked him out. Someone was saying someone came and kicked him out from another state that owned the home. It looks like his parents own the home. And I thought we had read that in the beginning, but maybe we didn't. But I thought we had. I don't know about him, but these guys, the deceased, were not junkies. He said they weren't drug addicts with needle marks in their arms. Now, I don't think any of them were, including Jordan. He said he was more alcohol, whatever, but I don't think that he was like where he was missing work. I think that what do you call that? When you're an addict, but you're like a functioning addict. That's what I think that it was, more of functioning addicts, like not, getting so high that you don't know what you're doing like for the whole day. I don't think that was the case at all for any of these guys. But I also think that if you were to ask your mama, do you know everything about me? And she would be like, yeah. And then I'm sure you could tell her something that would lay her flat in her tracks. Everybody's got something. You know what I mean? Everybody's got something. My dad went to his grave thinking I did no wrong. No wrong at all. No wrong. My mom was just like, don't tell your father. Whenever we would do something, we'd tell our mom. She'd say, just don't tell your father and I'll handle it. But it's just kind of funny because he would go off the deep end. But I don't know. So it says here, they were professional people. And if they were doing coke or recreationally, they never expected it to be laced with fetty and lethal. Well, and I don't think anyone thinks that either. Fetty has killed more than 850 people in the 9-county Kansas City area since 2018. Wow. Jim McGinney pointed out that on January 8th, as the unalived men apparently lay frozen in the backyard, a 38-year-old Kansas City man and his 31-year-old partner were arrested on charges of drug trafficking. I can't really say that, I don't think. Cops found more than 105 grams of fetty, enough to kill 52,000 people. 52,000 people is like 2 of Moscow, 2 of my hometown growing up. I'm trying to think. What's 52,000 people? It's not a very big town. Think of the smaller towns in your state. They probably don't even have that many. You know what I mean? Like 52,000 people is a lot. Wow. Along with supplies used to package and distribute the drugs in their suburban home, according to the news release. It's so sad, McGeeney said. I wish people knew that if they were going to use rugs like this, they would at least buy one of those test kits to see if anything's been laced. 3 families have been ripped apart forever over this. And that's the truth. And I'm wondering, if maybe they did the Fetty, and then what if, or I mean, like the Coke, and it was laced, not knowing it was laced. And their heart rate went up so high that Jordan maybe gave them something to make their heart rate go down, or they took something else for their heart rate to go down, or they were going out the door to get something else. And that's when it happened. I'm just wondering if it was something like an upper and then a downer. It just seems so crazy for that to hit you and all 3 men just to be like, time to lay down, take a nap right here. It's crazy to me. I mean, I'm sure it happens all the time, but it's still crazy. So Nancy Grace came out with a new video tonight. She's up. Oopsie. Sorry, I didn't mean to press that. But so the other night when we were watching the video, we went over the toxicology. We went over all this stuff that we went over like tonight, beginning of the live. And she had done a video, but it was like right before the toxicology had come out. So this is going to be her talking about the toxicology, all that other good stuff that, we didn't get into the last time. Juicy details, I guess you would say. She'll be able to cover it here. And let me see, what else did she go over? Oh, she talks about like Clayton and his fiance finding him and all of that stuff as well. And I forget who it was. Was it Mike? Was it you, Mike, that said that Nancy was born in a leather jacket because she's wearing another one? It just makes me laugh every time I see her something leather now. She likes leather. So don't forget to like the video if you guys don't mind. Just taking a second, hit the like button. I'll try not to pause it too much for you guys, and we'll go ahead and we'll play it. I appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel also.
Dead bodies just outside your window. How do you miss that? Of course, I'm talking about the 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans found dead on the back porch and in the yard of friend Jordan Willis. But this morning, a sobering thought. Did the so-called friend, the homeowner, Jordan Willis, immediately pack up, move out, lawyer up, and check into rehab as part of an elaborate legal strategy to gain public sympathy and avoid potential jail time? I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Crime Stories and on Sirius XM 111. Of course, we are now learning that each of the victims out in the yard and on the friend's back porch in plain view from inside had lethal doses of fentanyl and more in their system. I'm talking about potentially 3 times a normal dosage or more. We have not seen the official toxicology report. We are getting this information from family. Now, again, no one has been named a POI, person of interest, or suspect in this case. All the while, the friend/homeowner remains behind closed doors in an alleged rehab facility. First of all, take a listen to this.
When Jordan Willis checked into rehab, family and close friends said he decided to tackle his addiction issue head-on after the wake-up call he got when 3 friends died outside his house. Retired NYPD Inspector Paul Morrow tells Fox News Willis checking into rehab could be a preemptive move to get a shorter sentence if he is charged with a crime.
Early toxicology results indicate all 3 men found dead outside Jordan Willis's rented home had cocaine and fentanyl in their systems. According to WDAF, the families confirmed police have the initial toxicology reports. According to a family member, the level of drugs in their system is high, 3 times the amount of a lethal fentanyl dosage. And police say the case remains an ongoing death investigation.
And the facts seem to be revealing that the friend slash homeowner may have had something to do with mixing the deadly drug cocktail. Is that true? What do we know? Listen.
Caleb McGeeney says his cousin Clayton McGeeney was his best friend. Caleb claims Jordan Willis has been known since high school as the chemist who would make drugs for the specific needs of the individual. McGeeney also says that Ricky Johnson, Clayton McGeeney, and David Harrington were all best friends. They all knew Jordan Willis from high school, but from a close-knit, quote, friendship standpoint, Jordan Willis was kind of off to the side.
The mysterious fifth man in the group on the night of the football watch party, Alex Lee, is a good man, according to Caleb. Asked if Lee might have brought drugs to the get-together, Caleb McGeeney tells news media's hell no. McGeeney also says he's not happy Jordan Willis used his cousin, his best friend, as a guinea pig, then effed up and made a mistake.
Let me go straight out. We got an all-star panel with us right now, but let me go first to Grace Smith out of Kansas City, KC3 investigative reporter. Grace, thank you for being with us. First of all,
Of course.
is it true that the friend, and for those of you that can't see me, I'm definitely using air quotes with friends like these, who needs enemies, the so-called friend slash homeowner, Jordan Willis, is it true he's checked into rehab? And if so, do you know where?
So, according to family members, they have told me that he has checked into rehab. I do not know where. I have reached out to his attorney, and he told me that he is not commenting further on anything until those full toxicology reports are in hand.
Is that the same lawyer that won't reveal what has happened to the friend slash homeowner's cell phone? Won't tell you what was on
Yes.
it, won't give it to you, don't know if it's been handed over to police. Is that him? Same lawyer?
Yes, he says he is not commenting on anything until those reports are out.
Okay, so much to figure out. But first of all, we know for sure, according to family members of the victims, that the homeowner has gone to rehab. Well, it wouldn't be the first time that a celebrity or an individual gets in hot water and thinks rehab is the answer. Does the name Mel Gibson ring a bell? Listen.
Mel Gibson was arrested for driving under the influence the first time in 1984. Years later, Gibson was once again arrested for drunk driving. He was caught speeding in Malibu in 2006 by Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. According to the police report and arresting officer, Gibson lashed out at the police in a tirade, making anti-Semitic remarks against Jewish people, which became known to millions of people worldwide, with his remarks ultimately harming his career. After his DUI in 2006, Gibson entered a treatment center for his drug and alcohol addiction, and after a few more alcohol-related embarrassments, got sober after attending his last rehab in 2010.
Dale Carson joining me, high-profile lawyer out of Jacksonville, also former FBI and author of Arrest Proof Yourself at DaleCarsonLaw.com. Dale Carson, can you explain to me the legal strategy of packing up all your belongings, moving out of the house, lawyering up, and checking into rehab?
It is so easy to get people to talk about stuff they should not talk to police about. So if you can encounter that individual somewhere, even if he's in rehab, remember, that's not protected speech in rehab. And so the result is that if he runs his mouth and he indicates that he was the supplier, in Florida, you'd be subject to the death penalty. And that's recent in Florida, but they take it real seriously here. So any providing of narcotics or drugs to someone that results in a death, you're on the hook for not just a life felony, but for execution.
Guys, it's PR strategy. That's what it is. Now, as many people have pointed out, maybe this is just a scenario where a bunch of guys get together to watch a game, they do drugs, and unbeknownst to them, Their drugs are cut with a lethal dose of fentanyl. Maybe the friend slash homeowner is just lucky to be alive. But how is it that he's alive and they're all dead? Again, back to entering rehab when you are in legal hot water. And not just Mel Gibson, Charlie Sheen makes a rush to rehab. Listen.
Charlie Sheen was infamously fired from the CBS sitcom 2.5 Men, in which he played the leading character for the first 8 seasons back in 2011, after he began displaying erratic behavior. Now, at that time, Charlie had been dealing with drug and alcohol addiction for years. He'd previously entered rehab after experiencing a near fatal overdose in '98, and he'd faced allegations of physical and verbal abuse from multiple women, including his now ex-wife, Denise Richards, who claimed he threatened to kill her and their daughters, Sammy and Lola. The actor also denied that he had any addiction to drugs or alcohol, and separately criticized Alcoholics Anonymous during an interview with USA Today, saying that it was for people that aren't special. Sheen eventually did get sober and now claims 6 years of sobriety.
Okay. And of course, we can't ignore Alex Murdaugh, convicted of double murder, when he's looking at the claims about the bodies of his wife and son found in a location where he just was, according to his cell phone. His answer: to enter rehab. Listen.
3 months after the murder of his wife and son, and just days after he is shot in the head during a staged roadside assassination, Alex Murdaugh announces he is going into rehab to treat a 20-year addiction to opioids. In the hours leading up to his rehab announcement, Murdaugh is fired by his law firm, accused of stealing thousands of dollars from clients' accounts. Alex Murdaugh issued a statement that says, in part, "The murders of my wife and son have caused an incredibly difficult time in my life. I have made a lot of decisions that I truly regret. I am resigning from my law firm and entering rehab after a long battle that has been exasperated by these murders. I am immensely sorry to everyone I've hurt, including my family, friends, and colleagues. I ask for prayers as I rehabilitate myself and my relationships."
Okay, well, the rehab stunt may work in California. It did not work in South Carolina. Murdaugh goes down for double murder. Question to you, joining us, Barry Hutchinson Sr., former law enforcement owner and chief investigator for Barry and Associates Investigative Services. Barry, thank you for being with us. How many times have you seen a defendant, a suspect, a person of interest, anyone, whether they're a suspect or not, get in hot water, get in trouble, and immediately rush to rehab?
Oh, it's pretty much, a common play, in a defense handbook. To me, it's defense lawyer 101 ploy. And you have to understand, a lot of times the defense has to have time, just like investigators have to have time to find out what's going on and formulate a defensive plan for their client. And I think that's exactly what's going on here. I think that he thinks that if he's locked away in rehab, they're not going to have access to him. He's not going to be interrogated further. He's not going to have immediate exposure to law enforcement that they can, pry deeper into everything that's going on with this situation.
And Dale Carson brought it up regarding attorney-client confidentiality, physician-patient confidentiality. Whatever you say to a psych or a counselor in rehab would be protected. But if you're saying it in a group, or you say it to your roommate or your bunkie, that is not protected under the Constitution. Joining me now, renowned medical examiner, toxicologist, pathologist, and opioid treatment expert. He is
This guy was really good.
literally the one who wrote the book, the author of American Narcan, naloxone and heroin fentanyl associated mortality. And that's what we've got here, according to what we think will soon be revealed in the toxicology reports, in the autopsies of these 3 dead friends. Dr. William Maroney joining us. Dr. Maroney, could you analyze for us, and please dummy down for me, I'm just a JD, you're the MD, what you think of the levels that are circulating within these 3 deceased victims' bodies. I mean, fentanyl doesn't come laced with cocaine and vice versa. What happened in your mind, Dr. Maroney?
Well, we have an enormous drug problem all over large cities, rural areas, urban centers, and fentanyl, as I indicated in my book in 2017 and 18, is huge. People, governments, universities focused on prescription medicines, and that was like going bull hunting and shooting rabbits. Everybody has been off target. Fentanyl has creeped into fake pills. Fentanyl is in methamphetamine.
Okay, first of all, what do you mean by
Fentanyl
fake
has
pill?
been if a drug dealer has people that are afraid of his powders, he says, hey, I got some Percocets. Hey, I got some Oxycontin 30s. Those aren't available anymore. They're fake. They're made in somebody's garage. They've got a pill press. They mix this stuff up in bowls just like brownies, and they wear masks, and they put the powder in the press, and they make fake pills that kind of look like pills that you'd get. But real pharmacists and real doctors know the difference. And they're putting fentanyl in fake pills. And somebody say, hey, have a Vicodin. Hey, but the Vicodin is not available. So they're making fake pills. So you have two
That's
choices.
crazy.
How did they get cocaine and fentanyl? The first choice is they took them
They are very
separately
round nationally.
with fake pills and cocaine. The second choice is they did cocaine knowing that they'd say, hey, we had some beer, celebrate, got a little cocaine. And then there was fentanyl in the cocaine because that's what drug dealers are saying. This is special stuff, man. It's really gonna help you out here. But the truth is, and we have an example, in Kalamazoo, Michigan, there were 18 overdoses in one weekend, 10 deaths, and everybody died of fentanyl, but they went out looking to buy cocaine. And this is a nationwide problem of unintended fentanyl overdose deaths for people who've always just done stimulants. They think stimulant at the end of the bar at 2 o'clock in the morning. People do cocaine and they go to private after hours clubs and they dance all night. We have this problem of drug consumption, and there is no end in sight.
Dr. Maroney, according to family members,
So, what are other than Fetty? What are they putting in the medications? Because y'all, I must not. I'm not. I must not be like really versed in this apparently anymore. Like, I mean, I guess when in my 20s I knew what things were, but I guess now I just don't. But I didn't know that there was I didn't know that there was a fake version and then a real version. I thought that they were both the same. And I know that's really bad. I know that's so bad. So I was learning a lot about this whole thing today whenever I was looking it up, because I didn't know that there was a difference. I just thought that it was dealers getting coke and then lacing it with Fetty to make more product, to push more product. That's how I was getting it. I wasn't getting it as they're making it all like synthetic and, they're making it with all these different chemicals. Now, who the heck knows how to make it? Like, who are these people that are like the chemist? Because y'all need to be like not doing that. You need to be working probably for the government or something if you're that smart. To make the medication like, almost feel like, I guess, the real medication. Does it feel the same or does it feel different? I don't know.
victims had a fatal amount of fentanyl in their systems, 3 times the amount of a lethal fentanyl dose. Again,
A
I'm
couple of my
not
friends
asking you to address
OD'd on
the
fentanyl.
wider issue of fentanyl ODs and the epidemic in our country. I'm talking about this case. What would be a lethal overdose of fentanyl? What would that look like physically to our listeners and viewers if they were to see it? And what would that do to your body? Let's start at the beginning, okay? Starting with A. What is a
Okay.
lethal dose of fentanyl for an average size male?
Average size male that is naive to fentanyl, not ever really had it, not regular drug user, is 2 to 3, maybe 4 nanograms per milliliter.
Okay, stop right
But
there.
yeah,
I believe you heard me state
Be clear, man.
dummy down. Nanogram,
nanograms per
milliliter.
milliliter.
What
I'm
are
sorry.
you saying? If I had a teaspoon, what would go in there to be a lethal dose of fentanyl? Is fentanyl a liquid? Is it a powder? What is it? What does it look like? And what's a legal dose? Listen, you've been dealing with experts and doctors. You need to talk to me, regular people. What's a lethal dose?
I'm going to
I wonder
tell
if they
you
are
that if
sold
you
over the
look
counter,
at
the kits.
grains of salt, grains,
That I can
individual-
understand. A grain of salt. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. In an empty teaspoon, 3 or 4 crystals, 3 or 4 grains of salt will knock a 70 kilogram or 120 pound man dead in 6 minutes.
Okay, stop. Wait. That's almost too much to believe. Let me understand what you just said. Guys,
Yeah.
stay with me, please. I've got one of the world's foremost experts on opioid crises and fentanyl. Dr. William Maroney, I understand that you just said 3 specks, 3 crystals, like 3 salt crystals, would knock a grown man flat.
In 6 minutes, dead.
Why do we even make fentanyl? Why is there even fentanyl? Why is it here? If it only takes 3 salt crystals worth to kill a grown man, why does it even exist?
Because in the drug pipeline,
Because of people like me
changeover
that need pain relief. I don't know. That's probably why it started.
for profits
Pain
eliminated
relief.
heroin because fentanyl is so much more profitable, and fentanyl is a synthetic.
again,
Dummy it
could
down. You
you-
make
Are you
synthetic
saying
in a
fentanyl's
factory.
cheaper than heroin? Fentanyl is cheaper to make than heroin. Is that what you're saying?
Tons.
Okay,
Tons.
just say it like that.
1,000 times cheaper. Yeah.
Why? Why is
And
fentanyl
it-
so cheap to make? And are pharmaceutical companies still making it?
Well, they make it for patches for hospice patients. But the reason why heroin has to be grown in a third world country, heroin has to be
You
cultivated.
mean poppies?
Then it's sent to, yes, then it's sent to France or Mexico and it's processed. This is labor. This is transportation.
As
And then there
opposed
can be
to
interdiction.
somebody like
As opposed to somebody makes it in a factory,
like on Breaking
in a
Bad,
warehouse.
out in the desert in a mobile home. You can cook up
Absolutely.
fentanyl.
It's done. We don't make it in America. They make it cheaper somewhere else, and then it comes across the border. But it's still cheap.
You're making
It
me
is so
realize
cheap.
how easily these guys could have OD'd. Now, a
Yes.
lot has been made of the way they were positioned, where they were in the backyard. As a matter of fact, take a listen to what we've learned from one of the victim's brothers. Take a listen to our cut 28, Dave Mack, Crime Online.
The mystery surrounding the deaths of 3 men who died outside in the cold while a 4th friend slept for 2 days in the house just took another odd turn. The brother of one of the deceased men, Ricky Johnson, says the way the men were found has him wondering what happened. One body was discovered on the back porch by police, while the 2 other deceased men were found in the backyard. According to Jonathan Price, David Harrington was found on a lawn chair on the back porch. Rather than all 3 men laying flat, paints a picture they didn't have from the beginning.
You know, renowned psychologist joining me from Manhattan, Karen Stark, TV radio trauma expert and consultant at KarenStark.com. That's Karen with a C, in case you're trying to get in touch with her. Karen, I learned this really the hard way in court. I managed to save the case, but every detail matters. At first, we heard that one victim was lying prone on the back porch and the other two were out in a garden in the backyard. Now, the brother of one of the victims has pointed out that the back porch victim was sitting in a lounge chair. Now, does it make a difference? I don't know. But I do know this, Karen Stark, every single detail is important. Because there were reports the three had been dragged to the backyard and to the back porch. But who would drag a 200-plus pound man
Yeah,
and
that's
then
too
prop
heavy.
him up in a lounge chair? I mean, every fact matters, Karen Stark. And right now, these families are grappling with the facts. Is this a case of 4, possibly 5 guys celebrating, partying, drinking, doing some cocaine that's laced with fentanyl? Can Maroney explain? Can cocaine laced with fentanyl have that much fentanyl that it kills you? Was it the reverse? But about the details, Karen, why are they so important when we're grappling with who's telling the truth? What happened to these guys? Was it an accident? Was it more nefarious? Why'd this guy rush off, get a lawyer, and check into rehab? Details matter, Karen Stark.
They certainly do. Nancy, do you remember when we used to sit and listen to people who were in front of the police and they were trying to let them know their stories and giving all kinds of explanations?
Yeah.
And we would look for ways that they were saying the smallest thing that didn't jive with everything else that they said. When people are even talking to therapists like me, you really want to know every single specific fact so you can help them figure out their lives, make sense of things that have happened to them. And in this case, it's just such a strange story. We all have to be detectives trying to put together, how could this possibly have happened? Now there's fentanyl in the cocaine. We know that many people have died from that. That makes a huge difference. So yes, the details really do matter. We've known that for years.
Dr. William Maroney, jumping off what Karen Stark has just said, and remember to the rest of the panel, jump in if you have any thought on this. You're a think tank. You're the brain trust, so please jump in. Dr. Maroney, would it be fentanyl mixed in with cocaine or cocaine mixed in with fentanyl, and do they look the same?
You can't tell the difference as far as the size of the powder or the color, but it would always be fentanyl mixed in the cocaine, because cocaine by itself is not fatal. The majority of it being cocaine, it's the vehicle now. It's what's used to deliver it. And putting cocaine in fentanyl would mean that the volume of fentanyl would have to be like cut. Nobody's going to do that. They sneak this stuff in and tell you it's really good cocaine. There's no drug dealer that's going to say, I've got some really good fentanyl for you, because everybody's scared poopless of it. Nobody would really.
Doc, aren't you saying that even if you tasted it could kill you, which is the traditional way of testing cocaine?
Yes. But
So
cocaine is
you taste it,
being
you die.
snorted. And that these people, I would bet that they're
Cocaine
not
can be
regular
shot up
opiate
also.
users.
What, Karen Stark?
I'm pretty sure that you could shoot up cocaine. You don't just snort it. And crack is also cocaine, and that's lit up.
So how would it appear, Dr. William Maroney?
It's going to look like powder sugar, and it's in small plastic square packets that fold over.
So while
And
we are
people will put it
go ahead,
in
please.
spoons and put it in their nose. People that want to get high with cocaine, we've been injecting cocaine for decades. But traditionally, good old boys football fans, big tough guys, they snort this stuff while they're drinking. It would be interesting to see what's the blood alcohol level with this, because then it'll tell you that it's a casual timeline, a chronological drug delivery that begins with alcohol, goes to cocaine, and surprisingly, there's fentanyl in the cocaine. But we've seen this all across America. We've seen fentanyl in cocaine for almost a decade in New York, Boston, Baltimore, Detroit, Chicago, and people are afraid of it.
So
that's why they make fake pills.
It would also be very interesting, Barry Hutchins Sr., former LE and owner of Barry and Associates Investigative Services. It would also be interesting to find out if cops went into the home and processed it with drug dogs, a canine that could actually smell. Hey, were there lines of coke
say no
on the dining room table, or on the coffee table, or on a plate, or on any surface in that home? Right?
Nancy, that's correct. You know, one thing that the public needs to understand, I'm sure you understand this, being a former prosecutor, in regards to a crime scene, there's a rule that's very prevalent, and that is that something is always left at a crime scene and something is always taken away from a crime scene. Now, that could be trace evidence, it could be physical evidence. So I think certainly that a drug dog could have been used. I haven't heard that a drug dog could have been used. And I don't know what kind of search even took place at the house, because that hasn't been made public here that I know of. But certainly I think that the Kansas City Police Department and the Platte County Prosecutor's Office are looking at every angle as far as searching everything. And you touched on something earlier I think is really important as well, getting back to the defense lawyer and this subject moving out of the house as the homeowner right away. My personal belief is that that's done deliberately so that they can come back later and say that if something is recovered in the house after the fact, from like this date forward, that they can, after the fact of this guy moving out, and they can, you know, that can be argued to a jury to where they could say, you know, they only need one person to not believe the prosecution's story, you know, as to what happened. And so I think that they're deliberately putting things in place here that could stumble a jury, you know, later on in anticipation of prosecution of this case.
And moving out so quickly, lock, stock, and barrel, gets rid of who knows how much evidence. And of course, Dr. Maroney, when you put dishes in the dishwasher and turn it on, there goes all the evidence off those plates or whatever surface was being used, whatever utensil, a bowl, a plate, a saucer was used to snort coke.
Nancy.
What? Jump in.
Nancy, wasn't it below freezing, well below freezing?
No.
Why are three guys outside? Does fentanyl do something with thermogenesis in the body, making us want to be cooler? I don't know the answer to that question, but there's a reason they were all outside when they died.
As a matter of fact, Dale Carson, you're exactly correct. What does the temperature have to do with it? Well, it was not freezing. Listen.
David Harrington's father is also challenging the idea that the men froze to death. Daily Mail reports John Harrington saying, "I don't think it's very likely they froze to death like some people are saying. It just wasn't cold enough." The temperature for Kansas City late in the night of Sunday, January 7, was around 36 degrees, and the temp remained above freezing all day Monday, January 8. Tuesday, January 9, was the coldest day when it was 26 degrees by 2 p.m. and 20 at 10 p.m. The first.
I think when we looked it up, it said that your body can be hyperthermic at like if you're exposed to temperatures even in like the 50s, 60s. So I remember it was like a crazy number because we were all like, what? It doesn't have to be freezing in order for your body to become hyperthermic.
First 36 hours of the mystery, the temp is at or above freezing, and it is only the last 12 hours where it gets really cold.
But that is a common misconception, that the temp has to be freezing for a person to freeze to death. You don't freeze to death. It's not like putting a popsicle in the freezer. You get hypothermia and you die basically from exposure to cold temps. But what were you saying, Barry Hutchinson, following up on what Dale Carson brought up?
One of the big things I think that's going to be one of the key turning points of the investigation is going to be the toxicology report, and with everything included in it. A question that I would have is, why were these guys outside in the very early morning hours when this happened? And to me, one thing stands out. They would be outside because they were out there smoking either cigarettes or marijuana, because this was a rented home, and probably on the lease it says that they're not allowed to smoke in the house. So that would explain why they were outside at that point. Now, whether the drugs were ingested through marijuana or the cocaine or both is yet to be seen. But I think that's going to play a key part in the discovery process of all the evidence involved that's going to help narrow down and shake through the funnel, if you will, the key elements of the case. Coupled back with what you spoke of earlier this week, Nancy, with the phone records of every single person that were involved in being there that night. I think that's going to be a key element. And, addressing the aspect of somebody being drugged, or dragged rather, to the outside area, I don't see that happening, because one of the guys, at least not by one person anyway, because it's my understanding that one of the victims involved was an approximation of 300 pounds. And that is a lot of weight that's not assisting you to be dragged anywhere. I mean, if you go to the police academy, one of the tests you have to take in the police academy to even get into the police academy is the dummy drag. And that dummy drag is a 160-pound dummy, but it's dead weight, and it feels like it weighs 500 pounds when you grab a hold of it. So I don't think that one person could have drugged that individual, any individual that was a victim that night, outside without the help of somebody else. So I think that's going to be a key element also that's going to be investigated.
To you, Dr. William Maroney, expert in not only fentanyl, but all sorts of opioid related deaths and studies of it. Dr. Maroney, what do you make of what we're saying regarding Dale Carson's question? Is there something about fentanyl that makes you hot? Would they want to go outside in those kind of temperatures? And also address the issue of freezing.
Well, I agree that there's no way anybody froze there. I lived in Kansas City for 12 years. It gets cold a little bit, but it's warmer during the day, and it's not as cold as Chicago. That's off the table. But everybody that gets real close to a fentanyl overdose, and I see non-fatal overdoses. They come in, they talk to me, they enter into treatment in my clinic, so they're non-fatal overdoses. And then I see the fatal overdoses when we go to autopsy and we work with the pathologist and the police try to reconstruct it. Everybody that's around a fatal overdose tries to get them cold air. And if you feel yourself falling out, you look for cold, fresh air. So they could have been in the house, and it sounds good that they would have went out to smoke. But if they would have felt the fentanyl kicking in, they would have said, I need some fresh air. Kind of like when you're in that bar all night long and it's smoky and it's hot and you had a little too much to drink. You step outside, that cold air, it straightens you up right away when you're drinking alcohol. It does not straighten you up with fentanyl, but you seek something cold. And if you think you're going to fall out, you sit down, you look for a chair, you lean up against the car. And sometimes on death scenes and crime scenes, the people around the person that's overdosing throw them in a cold shower. So that's what people seek. That is the other reason why they would have been outside. They felt they were going to fall out. They started feeling sleepy. They couldn't think. They were drooling. It was difficult to breathe. So you step outside to get something to straighten up before you fall out.
I mean, Dr. Maroney, you and I have talked about this 100 times before, but it's elementary. It was even in The Wizard of Oz. Remember when Dorothy fell asleep, right? In the poppy field.
In the poppy field.
Snow.
She made herself comfortable.
Snow.
That's what makes me smile when sorry to just get sidetracked, but my boutique is called Poppy and Ari, and my mom used to talk about the poppy fields on the Wizard of Oz, so it reminds me of her.
Had to wake her up. The cold.
Yes.
Woke
Same,
her up. That's not
exactly
just a
right.
kid's
They
story.
seek the cold. To straighten up.
So was the culprit, is the guilty culprit in the death of 3 Kansas City Chiefs fans, all 3 best friends, all too common? A fentanyl OD. Did you hear Dr. William Maroney? Trust me, if he says it about fentanyl or opioids, it's right. That 3 grains, like salt, grains of salt, are enough to kill a grown man? Is that the culprit, the all too common culprit, the killer in America and in this case? But we've got another problem. Take a listen to Nicole Parton, Crime Online, cut 3-2.
Caleb McGeeney says his cousin Clayton McGeeney was his best friend. Caleb claims Jordan Willis has been known since high school as the chemist who would make drugs for the specific needs of the individual. McGeeney also says that Ricky Johnson, Clayton McGeeney, and David Harrington were all best friends. They all knew Jordan Willis from high school, but from a close-knit, quote, friendship standpoint, Jordan Willis was kind of off to the side.
Does anybody remember the incredibly popular weekly program, All in the Family? The star was Archie Bunker. In real life, Carol O'Connor. He went head to head in court with his son's drug supplier. His son died of an overdose, and Carol O'Connor won. So, based on what we're hearing from Nicole Parton at crimeonline.com, is there culpability on behalf of the friend slash co-owner? Did he personally mix the drugs for his friends? Did he know or not know fentanyl was involved? The fact that all 3 of them outside had fentanyl in their system is no coincidence. What about the friend slash homeowner? Did he have fentanyl or cocaine in his system? Was he even tested? Those are answers we don't know. But to high-profile lawyer joining us out of Jacksonville, Dale Carson, would he be responsible if he personally mixed the drugs?
There's no question. If they find the chemical similarity between the drugs that are laying around in that house somewhere and the drugs that are on the clothing or the face of these individuals who died, he's definitely chargeable. And as I said, in Florida, it's now a death penalty charge. So if they find a supplier anywhere, that individual is likely to be charged with manslaughter in other states, possibly second-degree murder.
Many family members of the 3 victims are hearing none of it. Listen.
Harrington's girlfriend of 17 years flat out says David was murdered. Those 3 guys were murdered. The Kansas City police said from the very beginning the deaths are not being investigated as a homicide, but Lori Cruz says her boyfriend of 17 years did not use drugs and that he was murdered.
Since early in the investigation, police have said the case is not being investigated as foul play, but some of the loved ones of the deceased believe Willis played a role in their deaths. John Harrington, father of David Harrington, whose body was found on the open porch, said that he and David's mother both are convinced that Jordan Willis played a part in the deaths.
With conflicting reports about what really happened that night, to you, Dr. William Maroney, can you assume that if there was a report indicating 3 times the level of a deadly dose of fentanyl, which really wouldn't be that much, according to you, it would be like 9 grams of salt, would that be considered the COD, cause of death?
100%. 100%. When we look at toxicology, we look at the references, and unless we have any other history to contradict that, like coronary artery disease or asthma, fentanyl's at the top of the list fentanyl is the #1 killer between the age of 19 and 50 in Americans with drug toxicity deaths. And the other thing is, when we look at the ratio, I know I'm going to talk science here. It's a little bit of medicine. Forgive me. When you look at the ratio of fentanyl versus norfentanyl, the first metabolite, if the fentanyl is out there in a 10-to-1 ratio, then these guys got the drug and died within minutes.
But
If
why
the
not the
ratio-
homeowner? Why not the friend?
Well, drug dealers don't like doing their own drugs. They don't make money doing that. Then this is all about economies of scale. The more he has to sell, we not only have to look at the house, look at the garbage, look at what he's had out there, look in the garage, look in the basement. And other people will come out and talk about this person either selling cocaine and they've had fentanyl, but they didn't die, or he's pressing fraudulent tablets that are to look like OxyContin, but they're really fentanyl. If you look back at that ratio, the ratio of the parent compound to the metabolite will tell you how fast they died. It's going to be critical too.
The other problem to you, Barry Hutchinson Sr., Karen Stark, and Dale Carson, are all the, let me just say euphemistically, conflicting statements, inconsistent statements, also known as lies, that the homeowner / friend has told, that there wasn't a fifth person there, and then the fifth person emerges, that his dogs were at his dad's house. That's important because in almost 3 days, when you have to take dogs outside, the fifth friend says, no, they were there at midnight, the night of the death. It just goes on and on. Did the guys leave and come back? Were they there the whole time? Were they dragged outside? The doors were locked. The doors were unlocked. I mean, those are just some of the inconsistent reports given by the friend / homeowner. That doesn't look good, Barry Hutchinson Sr., because if this is just a horrible accident and the only culprit is fentanyl, then why lie?
Well, I think that this individual that was the homeowner there, I think that he realizes that the accusatory finger is going to be pointed to him. I think that he's smart enough to understand that. I think he's trying to come up with some kind of, plausible deniability of being involved. I think that he's trying to make up a story that, hey, it wasn't me, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. But there's so many statements and so many things that are really starting to point the finger toward him.
That's right.
It's becoming insurmountable. And
Well,
the truth.
let's remember.
Nancy.
Hold on. I was just going to go to you, Dale and Karen Stark. Dale Carson, that's what I love about trying multiple defendants at the same time. They all start doing this at trial, pointing at each other. You got that fifth friend who many have speculated, oh, he's the dope dealer. We don't know that. I don't know where that came from, but it's out there. And you've got him, and then you have the friend / homeowner. One of them knows what happened. And pretty soon, I predict they're going to start blaming each other.
Well, of course, but it's in a rural area, which manufacturers of narcotics like to be in rural areas. So if it was manufactured in the house, they're going to find the residue and perhaps
Wait,
even a
are you
laboratory.
calling Kansas City, Missouri a rural area?
I'm calling where that house is a rural
Is that true,
area.
Grace Smith?
I wouldn't call it a rural area. It is probably 25 minutes from downtown, but it's still very populated. It's the area is very nice, truthfully. There's a huge shopping center just near it. So
it's more suburban?
It is out on the outskirts of town, but it's not, I wouldn't call it rural.
Okay.
Nancy, that area is what's commonly known to people in the Kansas City area as the Northland. And it's an area that's heavily populated with large neighborhoods. The street that is directly to the backyard of this residence where this occurred is a 4-lane highway called Berry Road. It's a very, very populated area, a lot of heavy traffic area right there. So it's not a rural setting per se, but I do understand what he's trying to get to is that you know, in the rural areas, a lot of that goes on because it's easily undetected, you know, per se,
Well,
instead
I
of it being
mean,
in a
I
concentrated
agree
area
with you,
under
Barry
law
Hutchinson.
enforcement.
Every time we hear about a mobile home blowing up or a house in a rural area just blowing up, we're like, well, they're cooking up some meth. So, Dale Carson, you got that rural part all wrong, but you want to just step back and punt?
No. When they rent houses, this is the homeowner doesn't own this house. He's not the suspect. He's not the one who's in rehab.
Dale Carson, you're right. We're calling him the home owner, but he was the home renter. And how does that factor into your analysis?
Well, people who are doing criminal things are not likely to do it in their own backyard, meaning their own home. And so they rent these houses. I mean, we frequently call them trap houses. I don't know whether this is a trap house because I haven't been out there, but certainly
don't
that's
live
how
in a
our
trap.
products are managed, so that the individual who owns the house typically is not involved, doesn't know anything about it.
So, Kieran Stark, psychologist joining us out of Manhattan, weigh in on this.
Well, Nancy, what I was going to talk about was the fact that the person who was renting, who's now in rehab, was there for days and was not answering any calls when these three guys disappeared. I also want to say something about the condition they were in, because if they were that high and really starting to get sick, they're not making sense what they're doing. So they'd go outside, they wouldn't realize to come back inside that it was freezing cold. But the whole idea that he wasn't responding, this person who was renting, that he was ignoring the fact that there were bodies out there, that he was ignoring the families, is so suspicious. I haven't heard anything like that. That's just crazy.
Who is the culprit? In every tragedy, there's not always a criminal charge. Is there one here? We wait as justice unfolds. Goodbye, friend.
How big is that town that they're, or I guess city population? Let's see. Because I can probably, okay, ooh, a lot more than I thought. Let's see here. $508,000. Okay, never mind. Well, actually, they probably all do know somebody that that deals in it. You know, it's probably not just one of the people that know, but I personally think it was probably Jordan or the fifth person that probably maybe got it. But then again, you don't know, because they all could have just been doing it recreationally. And that's what I think they were. I think they were just having a good time. Their team won. They were like, hey, we don't want to watch Jeopardy sober, you know? They probably did it way before the Jeopardy, but you know what I mean? And they were just trying to have a good time, and things turned out extremely ugly. But with Jordan getting a lawyer, that's fine. Get a lawyer. You're supposed to get a lawyer, like, whenever, you know, you feel like you need to get one. But he picked a dud or something, or he told him too many different stories, because that lawyer just didn't know his head from his ass. And I don't know if that was Jordan's doing or his doing. He should have just shut up. That lawyer should have just shut up. It would have been way better for him. But so that was the preliminary kind of toxicology that they put out, like the family put out. And then we're still waiting on the actual like final toxicology, which will tell us like everything that was in their systems. But I don't know if we'll find anything other than that. I mean, I don't think that these guys were poisoned with like anything. I don't think that they consumed like antifreeze or anything to where they're going to find that in their system, you know, stuff like that. So I just think that it'll probably be the fetty, the cocaine, and the THC. That's probably going to be like the ultimate undoing. But you never know. They may come back and be like, these guys were suffocated before they were drugged. I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm not saying that happened, but you know what I mean? Something crazy could come back, but I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think it's just going to be like, you know, they were partying and it just took a really bad turn. Now, I do hope that Jordan gets the help he needs. Now, I'm not sure if it was Jordan that brought it in or if it was number 5 friend that brought it in, but those guys are going to have to live with that for the rest of their lives if the officers don't get down to the bottom of it, so man, I can imagine. But yeah, I wouldn't be mad at Jordan. Yeah, they're just wanting someone to blame, and that's what I kind of said. I'm like, when you go through your grieving stages, you don't always go through them in the same time. Like, sometimes you don't hit denial at first. Sometimes you hit angry. Sometimes you angry. Sometimes you're accepting at first. That's more of like denial, but accepting in a way. There's grief doesn't really have like a way that it works. Hey, CJK. Hello. But I think that's all I have for you guys tonight. I will let you guys know what the final toxicology report says, of course. Tomorrow, Rex Heuermann's going to be in court. I thought there was something else, but I can't remember. I can't remember for sure. But Rex Heuermann's going to be in court, and I guess that how we did that live over the Happy Face killer and the Long Island serial killer. They're pen pals. They're buds, buddies. Well, apparently he wrote him 4 more letters front and back, and they're going to be released tonight on Banfield at like 10 o'clock. So they're going to read through more of them. They read through some today on News Nation during the day. And I was like, oh, when are these letters coming out for us to read them all? So I'm hoping that they're going to be out by tomorrow so we can cover that and read that. So I think those would be like really good reads, because they were talking about butter. Do you get butter for your bread there? Like he's accepting the fact that he's going to be staying in that prison for the rest of his life. So I don't know. Let's see. But I'm going to jump off of here. I think that you guys are all great. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me tonight. I really, truly appreciate it. Don't forget to hit the like button on your way out. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'd love to have you. We talk true crime daily here, so I'll be back tomorrow night to talk some more true crime with you guys. Have a good evening, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.